This is when Gremlins decide to be Looney Tunes. Guys, how is everybody doing? Since I reviewed the original Gremlins movie, I've decided to go ahead and review its sequel. Now, before I begin, I do want to talk about the little bit of the history on and I am going to be criticizing some of these things, so I'm just going to get this out of the way now and I'm just going to be criticizing them in either ways. The original Gremlins movie was the fourth highest grossing movie of 1984. With that success, Warner Brothers instantly wanted a sequel. Although it did get a poor reception by people like saying that how is this a kids movie? It is like way too dark and gory and all of that, and that's when they made the PG-13 movie. Besides all that, Warner Brothers immediately wanted a sequel and they struggled. They had different rewrites. They went through some numerous scripts. They had ideas of bringing them to outer space and even Las Vegas. With all those ideas, that just did not work. They lost complete faith in those, so they decided to go back to Joe Dante, who's the director of these first two movies. He did not want to do it because of studio greed, and he knew that the only reason that they wanted it was because of greed, and he did not want to do it if that was the cause of this movie. And so Warner Brothers came into his demands and he said that he wanted 5 times the budget of from the original movie. And I'm just gonna tell you how big this budget was. The original 1984 movie had $11 million and grossed 100 or $200 million. But this movie had $50 million, which yes, my math is wrong, but it's close to five. It's close to 5 times the number. If anything, you could say 4 times the number. Shut the fuck up. And he also asked for complete control over the movie, where he can do whatever he wanted with the movie. Now, people usually think that directors have complete control over a movie. They really don't. If anything, the studios do most of the work than the director. The director just tells the actors what exactly to do, but the production company kind of shows the director what they want, not what the director wants, but what they want. People get that wrong, and it's really the production companies, and it's a very rare time that a director has complete control over the movie and can do whatever he wants. It's very rare, and yeah. Side note on that, since he knew that the studio only did this for greed, he decided to go all out and just basically mock the company, and he showed that since they wanted this for greed, he was going to do basically everything. He was throwing everything at the wall for this movie. Another thing before I begin, I'm sorry this has really nothing to do with this movie, but I just want to say this now. Yes, in fact, the Gremlin Secret of the Mogwai show did premiere on Max today. I watched it. Now, my original plan was, in fact, to review each episode every week, but I'm not gonna do that because I really see no point in it, and at the same time, I kind of just feel like I just should just review the entire season than just do my thoughts on the episodes each week. I just don't feel like doing that, so I'm just gonna review the entire season after the show is done. With that all out of the way, I will finally begin my review on Gremlins 2: The New Batch. Starting off with my positives on Gremlins 2 is the returning cast and characters from the very first movie. You get Billy and his girlfriend back. That's all we usually get from movies where you just kind of get like the two leading roles. But no, they go a step further and they get those two elderly couple from the first movie. I forget the actor's name, but there's one name is Murray. I do know that. I forget his wife's name. But the guy who plays Murray in this movie, I'm so sorry, I forget his name. It's like Ray or something, Roy. Excuse me. He sadly passed away. He is an absolute legend. He is starred in basically all of Dante's movies. I'm burpy today. And it's sad to see that he died, but he lived a pretty good life at a pretty good age and all that. But with that being said, I am glad to see Billy and his girlfriend return, especially with Murray and his wife returning. I really like seeing those characters returning. You would think that Murray and his wife would have died from the first movie, because if you have not seen the first movie, what stone have you been living under? I have to ask you. They get hit by like a four-wheeler or something like that, a snowplow, and like the gremlins like crash through their house and like hit them with it. And you would think that they would be dead, but somehow they lived. How the fuck did they live? Well, like I also kind of like the Al Lewis homage in this movie, where you get this guy who is playing a Dracula, and I'm not gonna lie, I honestly thought that was in fact Al Lewis, and then I looked it up, but he actually died before this movie even came out, so wasn't him. And he was also really old. He would have been really old when this movie came out, anyways. I'm not lying. He would have been old. But I like that homage, and for someone who loves the Munsters, the original TV series, and think that's a great monster sitcom with those classic Universal monster characters, I really like that show, and I think Al Lewis is easily one of the highlights of that movie. Him and Fred Gwynn are, and they both had good chemistry. Why am I talking about the Munsters right now? I do like that Al Lewis homage where he's kind of doing like the like kind of horror movie TV show host thing, which I really like, and I wish they would continue doing that. But modern audiences are assholes. Excuse me. I wish they'd bring that back, and I'm glad to see that he kind of has like his own gag here and there where he talks like to the gremlins and kind of tries to have his own talk show where all these gremlins are running around and making mayhem. I like that, and I like that little homage to him, and like it was actually a homage because Joe Dante is a fan of those type shows, and Al Lewis did actually have a show that was just like it that's going on in this movie, and it's just nice, man. Moving on to my negatives. This movie is way too goofy. Now, someone who is kind of into that weird, stupid humor and the stupidest shit makes me laugh. But this movie goes over the top with it. This is basically a Looney Tunes parody where if you got like Gremlins and oh god, what the fuck just happened there? You get like Gremlins and the creators of Looney Tunes, and they wrote a script, and this is what you would get. I was also kind of confused when I put this movie on, and there's like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck opening where Bugs Bunny was doing his generic thing where he's on top of the Warner Brothers logo, and he's kind of doing like his weird little stand on it, kind of like the sexy pose Deadpool does. And then Daffy Duck shows up and he tries to be the star in a way, and that keeps going wrong. It's like, well, if I'm not gonna be the star of this, might as well start in the movie. And I was like, shouldn't that been like an extra in like special features, but not in the actual movie? After you see this movie and then you kind of go back to that intro, you don't actually question that anymore because the opening of this movie is what in store for you in this movie, and I am not joking. For someone who loves meta and that's the reason that Scream is one of my favorite horror movie franchises and probably my favorite. This movie is way too meta. I am into the meta stuff. I think it's some of the best things out there, and I really like the kind of like fourth wall breaking. But this movie goes four steps ahead of Scream, and it bothers me. The one thing that I hated that was way too meta was the Hulk Hogan cameo in this movie. There's literally a part where like the kind of like the movie kind of like messes up, kind of like burns or something like that, and then and you kind there for the thing that they were doing as a gag was a thing where they try to get the audience to think that the movie was ruined, try to get them to leave and all that. But no, it shows that the Gremlins are messing with the movie and everyone is getting mad. And then one of the theater patrons has to go in the theater and has Hulk Hogan to mess with them. And he's like, hey, motherfuckers, we're trying to watch this movie. You better knock that off. And I was like, are we being serious right now? I'm a wrestling fan, but why? Weird ass meta joke where this guy who reviewed the first movie back when it first came out and he didn't like it, but he gave a more positive review on this movie. He is in this movie and reviews the first movie on a fucking VHS tape case where he's talking about the movie. I'm like, are we just like getting rid of all continuity here? Because is it like, are we in a movie within a movie? Is this like actually happening? Was this meant to be some kind of commercial and they just put it in here? What was the purpose? There's even a Rambo reference in here where Gizmo is watching TV and sees that Rambo 3, 2 or 3 is on, which I like the joke there. It's pretty funny. But then we get to a scene where Gizmo is training and he's basically Rambo. Like, I think that's cute. I think that's pretty funny. But was that meant to be in here? Also don't like these scientific gremlins. That's what I'm gonna call them because all these gremlins are kind of messing around in the science lab that's in this building. Which why is there a science lab in your building that's supposed to be a TV program? What the fuck? And then all of these gremlins just come in and just mess with all of it and drink a bunch of these weird potion shit that these scientists have been making. There's a smart zombie, smart gremlin, there's a spider gremlin, there's a girl gremlin, there's a bat gremlin, there's an electrical gremlin, and a tomato gremlin. Out of all those, I think the girl one is probably my favorite, but that's not saying much because I think that one's also corny. That or the spider because it looked cool. It was kind of creepy, and I get the kind of joke they were going for. But why? I hated that smart gremlin. By the way, I thought he was fucking stupid because like, why is he there? There's literally a part where he's like talking, and then he gives the bat gremlin that he won't get like damaged by the sun. And I was like, okay, I get it, Joe. You're trying to make fun of the company, but I don't want a talking fucking gremlin in this movie who's really fucking smart. I don't want an Albert Einstein fucking gremlin. The thing that bothered me when I was watching this movie is that you hardly even see Gizmo in this movie. He is the star of this franchise. He's literally the main character in the new Gremlins show. But in this, you hardly see the guy. I mean, he's in the first few minutes of the movie, which is pretty decent, where he's kind of getting out of his home. There's a little cute little scene where he's dancing the rock and roll, and there's a scene where Billy saves him. And then he kind of disappears after a while after he gets wet. Well, I mean, you see him in glimpses here and there where he's getting tortured by the gremlins, and then there's the scene where he comes back in where he does like his cool Rambo moment. And then you get like 2 second scenes where they'll cut to him and then back to the main characters, and then at the very end, it shows that he's okay. And I'm like, dude, this guy got like 30 minutes of screen time. And this movie's an hour and 46 minutes. We need a third movie because we need more Gizmo. At least we got a show, and I've seen more Gizmo. I've seen Gizmo more in the show so far than in this movie. All in all, guys, this movie's fine. I can put if I'm looking for a Gremlins movie just to have fun with. Don't judge the logic and just have a movie just laugh at and have fun with. I would put this movie on. But for someone who loves the serious tone of the Gremlins movie, but had pretty good comedy moments in there, and I get it, Joe Dante is trying to make fun of the company and kind of like showing them what'll happen when you get too greedy and all that, but I just don't understand why this movie even tried to exist. I would just say just to go ahead and stream it. What do you guys think of Gremlins 2 The New Batch? Do you enjoy this movie over the original? Do you not like this movie? Do you love this movie for how goofy it is? Let me know in the comments below and we will talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you loved it, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you will get notified for my latest videos. But until my next video, take care.